Welcome back to the Icon Awards Critiques. Thank you to B&H and also Critiq, which is that critique without the U and the E. These are our sponsors. They're the people who've helped us be able to bring these little experiences to you people back home and the people here at the show. Not often you get to sit down and have a chat with people who are, two of the most talented individual creatives in the world in the area of photography, but also to sit down and talk to two good friends. And that's why I find myself this afternoon. I'm sitting with Sarah Edmunds from Italy and Dario Righetto from Italy. Although, Sarah, you're also from London in a way, so... Wales. Well, there you go, Wales. We just got that right. But at least I said the names right. Guys, thanks for joining us. Just maybe tell the audience a little bit about yourselves.
I go first? Okay. My name is Dario Righetto. I'm a graphic designer, illustrator, watercolor illustrator, photographer and videographer. But I would say creative, definitely arty type of character. I've been around in this industry for 20 years. Before being with Sarah in Lavedis, I was a marketing director of a famous lab. So I've been all about printing and, of course, paper and technologies and photography 360.
I'm Sarah Edmunds. I'm a photographer and editor and retoucher. I was born in Britain, in South Wales, but I've been living in Italy for 27 years, and I've been a photographer for about 12 years, and a retoucher for a little bit longer than that. So I actually started off retouching and then became a photographer because I thought, I can do this. I can do this. So that's me.
And a background, you've also been an actress.
Yeah, well, okay, that's a long story.
Yeah. As I said, we have a very multi-talented panel today, so this is going to be a lot of fun. We're looking at the fashion and beauty category in the portrait division, and I'm sure, like myself, you're looking forward to seeing a few images. Just a reminder that what we're looking at in the critique sessions is images that scored 79 or below. So these are images that did not receive an award. Whereas over the weekend, previously, we've had the finals where we looked at images that got 80 or above and made the top 10 at the same time. The purpose of this is to give you an opportunity to see why images maybe didn't make the finals, what were the elements or the aspects of the image that held them back in the opinion of our judges, and what could be done to improve them or to give them a leg up, if you like, to get to a higher standard or a higher score. So with that, let's have a look at some pictures.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go ladies first, Sarah.
Okay, well, my first impression is that there's a very nice lighting and a beautiful sky. For a fashion image, though, I feel like I'm missing the fashion. I feel like the fabric that is being held up is covering rather than contributing to the image. So that's my first impression. What do you think?
Yeah, actually I was drawn into this kind of bold color scheme, and I like these masses. So I was looking at the graphic quality of the composition, and I really appreciate that. As well as I like this point of view. So we are clearly almost on the ground. So this is empowering for the subject. So it's kind of a bold statement as well as with the red glasses. So like I said, the color scheme and the masses and the graphic thing is what draws me. But I totally agree with you. If we go back to the category spirit, I'm a little bit lost like you. And I'm trying to wonder, what's the key element here? Glasses, the jacket, the whatever?
So I love the color scheme. I've just realized, I've taken a closer look at it. And my problem initially was that I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at. And I realize now that she's kneeling down, she's sort of squatting, and the skirt is being blown across. So my suggestion for improvement here would simply be to showcase the fashion more. It's a great location, very dramatic skyscape, but we need to see more of her figure and her pose and her shape as well. So we're losing a lot of shape in the mass of fabric. So I believe that standing and showcasing the skirt in that way would have been much, much more effective.
How do you... To me, the image looks a little bit overlit as well. So we've got that bright patch in the sky to the top left. We've got the brightness on the ground, which is pulling our eye down. And then there's a kind of bit of inconsistent dodging and burning, if you like. On the left, you've gone from bright to dark to bright. So these subtle shifts in tone and this sort of inconsistencies and retouching of the tones is pulling us around and away from that subject.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a temptation when we see a dramatic sky to go in and really manipulate that file and pull out the drama. But we always have to ask ourselves, is it really adding to the image? And in this case, fashion and beauty is really about fashion and beauty. That's where our eyes should be going. It should be on the fashion and it should be on the beauty. And unfortunately, yeah, I can see what you mean now. On the horizon, that clarity and contrast is overdone on the point where the land meets the sky, and that immediately takes us away to an area that we really shouldn't be looking.
Yeah, I wanted to say that about the posing, I would have loved to have one leg stretch out, which would have created triangles, first of all, and more dynamic and dramatic thing, lines guiding towards whatever the subject of the fashion should. So I would have loved to see more body shapes here.
Yep.
And create more, more impact.
Okay, let's have a look at another one. So again, we're looking at the fashion and beauty categories within the portrait division. And we're looking at images that didn't make the top 10 and didn't get an 80 or above. So they didn't receive an award. They may have got a 79 or they might have got something lower. But we're just looking at some of the reasons that potentially held them back from getting into that award standing. Sarah?
This image is very impactful and has massive potential. So if the author of this is listening to this critique, which I really hope they are, I would absolutely give them my full encouragement and say, this looks high fashion. There's a real, genuinely high fashion Balenciaga style going on here, which I absolutely love. There are some technical issues which I believe have held the image back, which are a very easy fix. First of all, the lighting, the control on lighting. It's difficult to tell without seeing it in print, but the danger here is that the white cuff is overexposed to the point that we've lost the detail. And in fashion, that's everything. What's more, we're also covering a vital part of the face. We're cutting into the mouth. So just if those two things could have been addressed, along with some others, which I'm sure we'll get to, this could absolutely go into the silver distinction, possibly even gold, with some tweaking and a little bit of attention. I'm really intrigued by this image. I'd love to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, I love the moody quality and kind of unsettling shadows with the double light on the background, which from a storytelling standpoint, which isn't my other bit, I'm a sucker for that, as you know, but I'm wondering, like, why does this double shadow there? What was the intent of the author? Because I can see a very interesting and intricate subject printed on the fabric, but I want to see more of that if I'm drawn into the story. And probably at this point, maybe less of these shadows on the background if there isn't a reason for having this, other than creating probably a graphic positive and negative, so negative space around the shape. However, editing-wise, I can see heavy-handed post-production that is probably, again, taking away other than bringing into the print. Sarah, would you like to say something?
Oh, go on then. Yes, so I knew that you were going to come to that, which is why I let you. I waited for you.
You should get married. Listening to you talk together like that. Oh, hang on a minute, you already did.
So this is me and Dario regularly. Every time we watch TV, every time we watch a movie, what do you think of that color grading? I don't know. That's not working for me. I think, what do you think of the composition? It's nonstop. It drives our children nuts. They're just like, will you just stop? You're ruining the movie.
Just watch the show.
Just watch it. We know the complementary colors, blah, 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 blah. So going back to the image. Firstly, there's an area just on the back of the dress going down, which I love this triangle shape, by the way. I shot an image quite similar to this, which is why when it came up, I was like, oh, I like this. We've got a little bit of a haloing around the edge of the the dress leading onto the background. I agree with you, Dario, that the shadows are not helping the story. They're not helping the narrative. So therefore, I love a shadow gobo. Don't get me wrong. I love a shadow gobo. It can be great, but it needs to be handled deliberately and with great thought, and it needs to enhance the subject and the image. It needs to help propel the overall narrative of the story, and I feel that that's being lost here. The back of the cuff as well, we've got some of that shadow is sort of falling on. So at this point, I'm not sure if and where these shadows are being created, whether it's in camera or if it's an editing process, because of what I'm seeing on the back of that cuff. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that instead of focusing on the majesty of this person and this figure and this fabric, and, you know, I'm also being drawn to a little crease in the fabric as well, which creases are okay, they're acceptable, but not if it's so noticeable that's what you're being drawn to. So,
I was just going to say, interestingly enough, the fabric is actually just pure white. That's not on the fabric. That's actually string or something that's been draped over it.
Oh, okay.
So you're getting the actual string or whatever it is, and then you've got the shadows of the string on there as well. And there's a couple of sections of red as well.
Oh,
because I thought it was on the cloth, but it's not. It looks like it's a white cloth.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. Okay, so this is a perfect example of if you're going to do something really cool and clever like that, it needs to be immediately accessible to the viewer. So when you're creating something, you can't expect the viewer to have to work so hard that they're prepared to sit and examine your image so that the viewer can appreciate it. You have to give them something so that draws them in, and then they're rewarded with something. What I'm looking for was just a little bit confusing, so I didn't pick that up. Now, it's too easy to say, well, that person just didn't get it, that's on them. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe that it's our responsibility to tell the story in a way that it's accessible to the person, to the viewer. What do you think?
Yeah, totally agree.
There's a saying in communication that the meaning of your communication is in the response that you get. So we know what we mean to say with our pictures, but if people don't get the meaning, that's on us, not them.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that. And it's okay if they don't get it, but it's not their fault they don't get it.
Yeah.
It's ours if we want to. And if we want them to get it, we have to change us and what we do with our pictures, not ask them to change.
Yeah. Completely agree. But overall, I'm fascinated by the concept. I'm fascinated by the originality and the thought that's gone into it. And yeah, I would love to see more work from this author.
Yeah, I think it's a good example of a really interesting concept, and all the elements are there. A little bit more control and finesse to make sure that the narrative or the meaning behind what you're doing is a little clearer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's have a look at another one.
Okay, I really love this one. I love the mood and even the black and white separation that have been done. I think he kind of deliver what probably the author was looking for. There is this muted sort of expression in her face as well. She's looking somewhere. She's looking upward, and again, probably, I would say that the lighting on her arm and the forehead as well, it's a little bit too harsh and kind of too contrasting with the general look of what I'm seeing. Also, I can't read exactly the headpiece, which is confused a little bit. And then again, I don't know if she's lying on a pillow or a bed or something else. There's a sort of structure, but I can't really say what it is. And this is kind of distracting because my brain can't have immediately the right picture, strictly said. I can see also a lot of work in terms of editing on her eyes, which I get are always, if not always, the main part. But then again, that's contrasted with the rest, which is softer, much softer. So this sort of inconsistency in the editing is again somewhat distracting to me. Sarah?
Yeah. So this category is fashion and beauty. Here we're on the face, which means it's beauty, and there are certain conventions that need to be adhered to. I really love the fact that the fashion element, which is the headdress, is kind of an afterthought. It's almost like I'm just going to lie here and pretend that I'm not wearing a headdress. So I really like that mood, and I love the black and white. I think that's been done really nicely. Really what I think is holding this image back from going up are technical skills. There's a beautiful mood, but it's a technical skill in lighting, posing. The hand and the light is very, very strong, and we've got the palm of the hand kind of coming. Instead of being drawn into the eye and the sensuality of the lips, I'm distracted by the palm of the hand and the uncontrolled light on that wrist. So I'm just imagining that this would be so much improved had we just got rid of that arm, and if we just brought that arm down, and then we could have really focused in on this face. And I'm appreciating the short light, this moodiness that we're shooting into the shadow. But with beauty, you've got to remember that skin is incredibly important. And I feel that here, what has happened is that we've got a reversal of what needs to be done, which is that we've got loss of texture, but we've still got an uneven tone. So I feel like there's been skin smoothing going on, but not the right kind of skin smoothing. So we need to have, when you're talking about beauty, skin is of vital importance, especially when you've got this moody shadow that is emphasizing all of the inconsistencies in the skin. And what's happened as well is that we've got over-sharpening on the eyes. So what I'm looking at is simply, it's the telltale signs of someone who hasn't developed those skills in retouching to take beauty photography up into that exceptional and above standard practice level.
So Sarah, you mentioned the light, the wrist. So if we took the wrist and turned it away from us, so it thins it out a little bit more, break the wrist a little bit more, that would soften that hand.
Absolutely.
And then with the light, instead of having the light that's coming down, and like even bring the light a little bit further away perhaps, and create more of a triangle on the far cheek, so it's not lighting the whole bottom of the face. And then if we used some sort of light shaping to take the light off the arm and off the chest and just focus it more, almost cinematic onto the face, we'd have a much stronger image.
Exactly. And this is a prime example of whenever you've got a model lying down, you still have to remember that the light needs to fall downwards, down and across, and not across. It's almost horizontal. And so it just automatically, our brains just tell us that something is off.
Okay, let's look at another one. What do you think, Dario?
Well, then again, the complementary colors here, the pattern, the scheme, the composition is it's a statement. It's very bold, very eye-catching. There's something though that beside the very dynamic diagonal that we have with the gown in the first sight, then we see this body, which is particularly statuesque but static. It's like, and it follows weirdly. It follows the same line of the trunk of the trees behind. Then there is this arch. So I can see geometrical quality here that has not been used properly. There was a huge potential, but I think that we are missing something. For instance, this figure leaning this way doesn't really convey, I guess, the message that was supposed to be, because she's not supposed to walk. She's not running away. She's not walking. So I don't understand why having this degree within the horizon. I would have preferred to have her perfectly vertical, and probably given this shape, so the arch, the stone arch behind, I would have rather have positioned her weirdly on the third, so looking outside and creating even more tension and getting the story going towards something unknown that actually goes beyond the boundary of the crop.
So it's interesting that you say that. I believe that this image is screaming out to have the figure framed by the arch. That's what I would do. I'm not the author, but I believe that as an image, it's stronger when you have a very strong architectural element like that to either, as you say, either place the subject outside it. Then you've got the risk, though, that this bright light behind is going to be even more distracting. So we're looking beyond her rather than looking at the figure. But if we could have used the bridge to frame this shape and put her right inside, I believe it would be a much, much stronger image. And the red is beautifully powerful and it's complemented with the complementary green beautifully. But we're so distracted by the light in the background and the light up in the right-hand corner that we need to control these elements. Now, in this category, we can retouch and edit and composite as much as we want. So why not do it? This is a prime example of a situation in which you would need to take that background, mute it down completely so that she is the brightest and most contrasty part of the image, and had that bridge framing her, and I think it would have been a lot stronger. What do you think, Tony?
I was just looking at the difference between the fabric on the left, which is out of focus, coming out of the left-hand side of the frame, but nice and flowing and smooth. When we go to the right, it's all lumpy and contrasty, and I think that inconsistency pulls us around a bit. I'd like to see that more consistent. Definitely, I'd even consider a little bit more crop off the left, so it's not so much of that fabric. The top right-hand corner, easily taken out in the corrective categories, you know, where you can actually use Photoshop for corrective correction. Start again. When you can use Photoshop for correction. Do that again. And I agree with Dario that the angle of the tree and the angle of the subject, just it's disorientating because there's no reason for them, particularly because the tree's there. If the tree wasn't there, then you kind of look at her and go, okay, she's leaning into the frame. But you see the tree, there's nothing worse than a horizon. It's just off. When we have an image like this, which the color grabs us, there's a lot of impact. You look at the subject, but it's the little things around it that slowly pull our eye because that doesn't look right and that doesn't look right and that doesn't look right, including the fact that the way she's positioned, she's looking up into a dark void. And I think this image would have been a lot stronger if she'd almost either had eye contact with the camera or looking halfway between where she is and the camera. But yeah, again, great location. The use of the light there is reasonably good, actually, but taking into account that background that Sarah said. So it's all the little things, you know, having an idea and then getting it to be seen in its full potential. The distance between those is all these little tiny steps. And often people do the big ones and forget the little ones. And I heard someone use the analogy, I think they borrowed it off Jerry, actually, that if you had a Ferrari with a single dent, the dent stands out from a mile away. But if you have an old car with a lot of dents, another dent no one notices. So the more you clean up the little imperfections, the stronger the little imperfections that are left become. And we kind of need to keep going. And my experience watching or talking to other photographers when they prepare images for competition is that there are those who go 90% of the way, and there are those who just keep going till they can't find anything else wrong. And the second ones are the ones who get the highest scores.
I just wanted to riff on that. There's just a few, I mean, another example is my eye is immediately drawn to these vines, these green, what do you call them? These not branches because it's green, but it's very in focus, it's very sharp, and that needs to be taken out because we're just being drawn there. And it's these, I find that when I'm retouching, and it's not, when we talk about refinement, it's not just about retouching. Okay, so refinement it's in 3 millimeters, the nose that way. It's the light being moved half a foot that way. It's it's layers of refinement in all of these areas. It's a pose where a hand is turned exactly at at a slightly different angle. But when it comes to retouching, I tend to go in layers. So I do all of the big things first, and then I do a second layer. And usually for a client, one pass is enough. For competition, there are many, many, many go-overs. And your eyes your eyes get more and more tuned to the finer details on each go around, I find. And that's why it takes time. That's why you can't do it really, really quickly. The brain doesn't work that way. So once you take out those big things, and then you start to see, as you said, then you see the dress, and then you see the creases on the dress, which, as you said, if there were creases all over the dress, it would be fine.
You know, we need to, we all need to trust ourselves. So we go and learn about posing, we learn about lighting, and we set them up according to the way we've been shown, and we go to a location and we do all the things the way we've been taught. But at some point, you've got to stand back and trust yourself. And if you look at it and you think, I've done everything the way I was taught, but right now with this moment, with that person in this light, I feel like they need to turn a little bit this way because I feel like that's uncomfortable. Trust your instincts. And when you're looking around and trying to decide when you're setting it up, should I move that just that little bit? Or when you're editing, should I just come in a little bit further? Notice what you notice. If you look at something and it pops out for you, there's a reason. Because when the judges look at it later, it'll pop out for them most likely. So trust yourself. So learn the basics and then listen to yourself and trust yourself. Just because you did what everyone else said doesn't make it right.
Yeah. And I feel like that this has so much potential that I'd like to say something else as well. That because the author has gone to great lengths to have this amazing dress with huge amounts of fabric and go to this location. And my suggestion would be always to, when you're taking the shot, look at what you've got on the back of the camera. Look at what ask yourself, is this framed correctly? Is this the best place this woman could be standing? Is this the best angle of her face for the light? Is this the strongest? Would it work better with her looking direct into camera? Stop. So many times we shoot and then we come back and we just pick the best of what we've got, and then we think, oh, I'll just edit it to competition level. That's not enough. You've got to get it there in camera. So stop, look at it, ask yourself, is this the best setup I can possibly get? Because this is a shoot where the author has time to make the necessary adjustments. So I can't wait to see the author come back with something else.
All right, let's have a look at another one. What do you think, Dario?
Yeah, first of all, I love the pastel color tonalities. It's so soothing and so dreamy in a way. Also because the white vignette all around, makes this head almost not a head. It's so graphically, encapsulated in this whitey, pinkish, dreamy atmosphere. I love this picture. Honestly, I really love it. I was drawn by the texture on the background, which makes the whole piece looking almost like a painting in a way. So I tend to like it. However, I feel a little bit of a dull expression. She's looking into the camera, but the eyes are dead somewhat. And I'm missing that connection. Now, I get that it's a beauty shot, and there's something off. There's some sort of circuit that didn't lit up at the right moment. And that's something that happens when we capture these type of pictures. It's really in a blink of an eye, literally. That's what we are talking here. A fraction of a millisecond is there, and a millisecond there, the light is no more there. We miss it for a millisecond here. But other than that, it's a lovely concept.
You're right, it's very beautiful, and I'd be willing to hazard a guess that this scored high in the 70s. The thing that I would suggest to take this, I don't believe there are many steps to take to get this up into the silver, and that is to think about balance in the photograph. I feel that the overall, that there's an imbalance because of the weight in the headdress. We're not anchored. We have the white is not helping to anchor the body down into the image. Had the dress been pink, to match. I believe that that would have helped overall this feeling of harmony. The other thing that's jarring to me is the expression, and I would say that the arrogant chin jut is not consistent with the softness of the palette and the florals. Now, inconsistency and a jarring juxtaposition can be a good thing, but it needs to be intentional. And I don't believe in this case it's working. So I believe that a more direct and symmetrical, especially with this headdress, a symmetrical face-on beauty shot would have worked beautifully. It would have been, sometimes there's real power in simplicity.
I just want to try something. Let me do it.
No, you can't do that.
If you take this image and you created a horizontal in the same format and you cropped halfway through the headpiece and just keep the collar in like that, you now have a very powerful portrait. And the actual expression is almost playing on that juxtaposition of soft pastels. Now, I don't know if I can show that to people at home, although we could take the risk of doing this, which is going to break all the rules. Sorry, Bob. We'll just see.
It's worth it, though. It's really worth it. Look at that.
So for me, that makes that work. And if you did nothing else except crop it, I think you would have lifted this about 7 or 8 points.
Easy. Yeah.
You know, because often it's not what we put into a picture, it's what we leave in that we should have taken out. Does that make sense? Because the expression and the eyes look so deliberate, let's use everything else to frame it. The color palette, now we see how that pastels in the cheeks and the pastels in the headpiece complement each other, and the green of the eyes comes out. And the only other tweak would be just a little lift of the highlight in the eye, just not too much, just lift that, and the pastel in the cheek, the pastel in the headpiece, the white of the collar, even the texture and the pattern on the collar is balancing, and everything brings us to the eyes.
Absolutely, 1,000,000%. I've kind of got goosebumps now.
Not bad for a landscape photographer, hey?
Not bad at all.
Well, 1,000 weddings and 5,000 portraits. There we go. Look, I'd like us to squeeze one more in if we could. We've been, just let's see if we can get another one. You guys want another one? Yeah, let's do it. Sarah.
Yeah. Once again, I this is really good, solid, professional practice. How can we raise it up into merit? I believe that.
While you're looking, I'm going to explain this to people that you need to remember when you get a score, if you get a 75 or a 78 or something like that, what the judges are telling you is that in their opinion, the work is of a high standard of professional practice. And if we can produce this work day in, day out, we are doing very well. This is good for our business, good for our clients. When it comes to awards, they're looking for that something little bit extra. So Sarah might tell us one or two of those things that might be missing.
Yeah, I also want to emphasize that. When I shoot weddings, I'm always telling Dario, who I trained to become my second shooter and occasionally my first shooter, but I said, I need 78s and 79s. That's what I need. I want good, standard, professional, all the way through the wedding. I want 77s to 79s. If there's an 80 here and there, that's an extra bonus, right? Bill's smiling, right? That's excellent work. 78 and 79 is excellent work. And I believe that this is excellent work. Award for professional standard. Award winning, we need to refine it. So how can we refine it? I think that the headdress and the earrings and the necklace and the outfit is too much. So I believe that by paring it down, we could easily raise that up and perhaps refine an angle of the nose as well. A little bit more genuinely serene. So she has her eyes closed, which makes me think serene, but I don't quite believe it. So Dario, what do you think? I'm not going to say anymore. I want to leave something.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly at the expression right now while you were mentioning it. First of all, I love the composition. I can see all this negative space going straight for a campaign with a bold claim about something that's perfect, makes perfect sense. So I see what, the thinking behind that, and I really appreciate it. However, two main things to me. I love the tone over tone, definitely, because this makes the headpiece standing out even more so. But this headpiece is so smooth and soft and everything that actually I would want to have a cleaner editing on the skin and the hair of the subject to make the whole thing more even. I can kind of perceive, you're right, the cluttered composition here with these bold earrings and the necklace and the fabric with this texture. There's a little bit too much. I would have preferred to highlight the headpiece, work on the editing on the skin, and keep the rest simpler. This would have made sense also to kind of convey more of the diagonal on the third here, as well as, like you were mentioning, it's funny that you mentioned the expression right where I was thinking, like, she's closing her eyes, but the expression is like, are we done? Are we done with this? Which is not a dreamy, sort of lost in time and space, things like coming forward almost, right? So it's a bit static and rigid and stiff and, yeah, not particularly happy and lost in the moment, which is distracting and it's breaking let's say, the idea that I was about to buy. So the suspension of beliefs is not there and it's jarring in my head. It's, yelling loud like something is off here. And it's a pity because otherwise it's a lovely composition.
Tony?
Sarah? Dario? Thank you. That brings us to the end of the fashion and beauty critiques. And we're saying goodbye. We've got people waving at us. So cool, take care, fly safe, travel safe, skateboard safe, however you get around. B&H, Photo, Video, Pro Audio, thank you so much for supporting this program. Yep, absolutely, worth the clap. We're really proud to have them as a sponsor at the Icon Awards, as we are proud of Critiq. That's without a U or an E. Have a look at the app that you can find through the iconawards.com website. That allows you to download up to 400 at the moment and getting bigger all the time. Individual critiques of images. So when people entered the Icon Awards, they had the opportunity of having a critique done by a judge, where that judge would sit down with their iPad, look at the image and be able to manipulate, move the image around, draw on the image and talk in a video back to that image, which you could then look at. Now that is available to everybody. It's incredible. So have a look at that. The book, don't forget the Icon Awards book. That comes out every year. That has the top, all the images that scored anything from 80 or above. So you've got hundreds of pictures in there for inspiration. It has a list of all the honours, and Sarah, I think you've got some honours in there, and Dario, I'm sure you've got honours in there, and so on. So it gives you a bit of an idea of who to go to for inspiration and so on. The judges that you've seen join us in these critique sessions also do seminars and presentations all over the world. So if you do get the chance to get into a presentation, go to a seminar or a workshop, I encourage you to do so. You'll learn so much just for a couple of hours with these people. But I think all of us as judges have learned over the years that probably the best seminar you can ever go to is either a judging or a critique session like this, where we take an image and we break it down. I want to thank the tech team. They're here all the time. They don't say much, but they make sure this all runs. We've had a lot of fun. We hope you've had a bit of fun back home. Go back, look at these, play them backwards and forwards, apply them to your own image making, and we look forward to seeing your awards in the Icon Awards next year. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Dario.